Good morning, dear friends. Today is Tuesday, 7th of October 2025. My name is Clive Thompson. I'm here with a financial expert, Clive Jr., we're going to give you the financial news for today, yesterday, and the last few days, as well as what's going on in the world generally. So what's going on in the world? We've got a political crisis in the United States. We've got a political crisis in France. Gold, Bitcoin, and stocks are smashing all-time records. In Asia, Japan's Nikkei index went to a new high after the victory of the lady Sane Takaishi. I can't say her name properly. She became the new Prime Minister of Japan. Stocks in Japan surged 5%. They're expecting more stimulus, i.e. she's a lady who is expected to encourage the printing of money to soften the Japanese yen, lower interest rates, and basically increase inflation, so people dive into stocks. Let's start by looking at the US political crisis. But first I'll just ask my Clive Jr., what's going on in the world? What about gold? What do you know about gold?
It's going up.
What about Bitcoin?
It's going up.
What about stocks?
It's going up.
What about Japanese stocks?
It's going up.
What about everything?
It's going up.
What about prices?
It's going up.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a melt-up boom. Call it a crack-up boom, if you like. It's a melt-up. Everything is going up. Well, not everything. Government bonds are not going up. But actually, the reality here is that money is going down. So your fiat currency or your bonds are not worth as much as they used to be. They won't buy as many houses, as many stocks, as much gold, or anything else that you've got your eye on. And that includes Bitcoin, whether you think it's an asset or not. So let's talk about the US political crisis going on in the United States. So currently the USA is experiencing a severe political crisis due to the federal government shutdown that began on October the 1st. That's about 7 days ago. The shutdown is seeing huge political differences between the two sides. It's deeply entrenched, sharp partisanship, and the government is facing dysfunction and threats of massive layoffs. So although employees have been furloughed, about 800,000 employees of the US government furloughed, meaning they're not working and not being paid, President Trump is moving towards the threat of mass layoffs where people will actually lose their jobs. So President Trump and his congressional leaders are taking a hard line, and it's a confrontational stance which is making compromise with the other party, the Democrats, much more difficult than prior shutdowns. So why did we have a shutdown in the first place? Well, the trigger for that was the government failed to agree a stopgap funding bill. So government agencies have to be approved for funding each year, which ends on the 30th of September and then starts on the 1st of October. And they didn't agree a bill to fund them. So actually, all their funding is temporarily cut off. They can't get any money, so they can't pay the staff, so they have to furlough the staff. And basically, the argument is they're having disputes between the Republicans and Democrats over healthcare subsidies, government funding priorities, and, of course, something which is very dear to the heart of President Trump, the presidential executive powers. What can he or what is he allowed to do and what's he not allowed to do? So both sides, well, not both sides, President Trump and his administration are using the shutdown to pursue cuts to the federal agencies, and with a particular focus on the Democrat-governed states. So they're pressuring the Democrats and trying to blame them publicly for the shutdown through things like government messaging and official channels. Now, some agencies have seen that the messaging, the auto replies, the auto responders from their staff have been changed to include a political message. So in many agencies, or in some agencies, let's say, the message, which would have been very sort of bland along the lines, we're closed, we're flow load, we're not able to answer your question, has been changed to a message which is blaming the radical left, or as they put it. Now, that, of course, would be, from an employee's point of view, if he would have written that message, that would be illegal, because you're not, if you're working for the government, you're not allowed to engage in your official position in a political activity directed at the success or failure of either party when you're in your official capacity. That's not allowed by the Hatch Act. So what's going on? Their neutral messages are being changed to political messages, and obviously some employees have tried to revert their email replies back to the more neutral version, but then allegedly it's getting switched back to the partisan language. Partisan means political focus on one side, switched back to the partisan language by the higher authorities within the agencies. So some of these employees are pretty upset that they're being implicated potentially in a legal act by doing something which is not allowed by the law. So they have in turn filed lawsuits. By the federal workers have filed lawsuits, and some of their unions have filed lawsuits on their behalf, arguing that their free speech rights are being violated and that they're being forced to participate in propagating political messages in their professional capacity. So you can see it's become very, very two-sided in the United States, with each side taking a very hardline view, and it's difficult to say when this government shutdown will end, and that will explain why investors are diving into the safe haven of gold. We'll come back to that in a minute. But before that, let's just look at what's going on in France. So France is in a deep political crisis as well. We just had the shortest government in all of history. Guess how long the government lasted? One day. We had a one-day government in France. So the Prime Minister, who just became Prime Minister yesterday, Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, stepped down just hours, well, he didn't become Prime Minister after he formed his government yesterday. He stepped down just hours after announcing his cabinet. He got his cabinet put together on October the 6th, and then... cabinet is the people who are on his side, and they deal with the budget, they deal with the transport, they deal with all the things in the country, including taxes and all kinds of things. So that's called a cabinet. It's like the people who work with you in your office. So he's in charge, and then you've got all the people around. But no sooner is he in charge and put his cabinet together, he's resigned.
Why?
Perhaps because there's so much disagreement in France about the budget, because the real problem is the government is spending far more than is allowed by European law, and they can't agree the budget, and everybody's got their own say, and nobody can agree. And he probably said, right, well, that's it. If you don't agree with me, I mean, I'm supposed to be in charge. Nobody does what I say. I'm out of here. I don't know if that's what really happened. But anyway, October the 6th, that's yesterday, forms the government. October the 6th, yesterday, he resigns. So this is the third change of Prime Minister in France since December. So that's 10 months. We've had 3 Prime Ministers. So kind of indicating that there's extraordinary instability at the highest levels of government. And behind that, we've got a hung parliament. So lots of political parties. No single party has a clear majority. And the assembly is split among... that we've got the President Macron, who's got his centrist alliance, and then there's a left-wing bloc and a far-right national rally party, and none of them can agree with each other. So it's getting to be pretty hard to form any kind of stable government, because if you've got all the parties pulling in different directions, nothing gets agreed. So the problem, the bottom line problem, is France's deficit, which is close to 6% of GDP, which is double the European Union limit. So there's huge pressure for budget cuts, but you can imagine nobody wants to give up their free money. So this is obviously rattling French stocks. It's rattling the euro, although I have to say the euro is still up 11% against the dollar this year. And it's raising questions about France's future governance and its future trajectory. So President Macron has tasked the outgoing Prime Minister, Le Cornu, with seeking a stability plan to restore order, and he told him to get it done by Wednesday. That's today. So I don't know if Le Cornu is going to do it. We don't know, but if this fails, Macron will have to appoint another Prime Minister. He'll have to dissolve the National Assembly and call for new elections, or worst case, he might even resign himself. I don't think that's likely, but, if you can't get things done, maybe you have to resign. Let's take a look at how stocks are doing today. So we're going to have a look at the stock market. I'll just bring up we'll start with the gold price, because the gold price is hitting all-time records, and this is something to see. So let's go straight to the gold price here. There we are. You see the gold price shooting up here. We got a chart going back to 1984, but you can see the acceleration starting from about 2024, 25, 26, and the recent acceleration in the last few days. You can see it really shooting up to an all-time record, $3,963 at the moment. It seems just a smidgen off the $4,000 level. That's a much shorter term chart. $3,962, and I'll just bring up the 5-day chart so we can see how that's been moving. There you are. It's not quite got to, as far as I can see, it's not quite got to $4,000. The high was 3,977 this morning. It's just dipped down a few minutes ago. Behind gold, silver's doing very well. Silver certainly last week was at an all-time weekly record, and a lot of people say that the all-time record for silver was $50. I think that $50, if it was touched very, very briefly. Let's just take a look at the all-time on silver and bring that up. You can see it now. It's showing me weekly the prices. It's above the weekly close, the all-time high there, which was at 47.93, and we're currently at $48.54 for silver. So silver really, I'll just bring up the 5-day chart so you can see really we're really at an all-time record there. Let's go and have a look at the Dow Jones. Oh, before we do Dow Jones, let's look at the other precious metals. Platinum's doing very well. If we go back to year to date, let's say, you can see we started the year below $1,000 and we're now at $1,633. So that's a good more than 60% up on platinum. And palladium's not doing quite as well as the other precious metals. If I look at 6 months, it's up from just below 1,000 to 1,347. So I'd say palladium's probably up about 30-something% this year. On the back of the gold price rising, the gold miners are rising even faster. Let's look at the VanEck Gold Miners Index, Gold Miners Exchange Traded Fund, the ETF. The symbol for the VanEck Gold Miners Exchange Traded Fund is GDX, Golf Delta X-ray. And here we are, that's that. You can see since the start of 25, it's gone from about 33 to 78, so more than doubling. But last few days, you can see it's still shooting up nicely, and it's performing a lot better than gold. The GDXJ, which is the same thing but juniors, is also performing very, very well. And now I promise you we'll look at the stock markets. So here's the Dow Jones. Let's look at it a little bit longer on a 1-year basis. As you can see, it's at an all-time record. I'll bring up the 5-year. There you are. So Dow Jones is hitting an all-time record, going higher and higher. S&P 500, all-time record. It's this wall of money which is hitting the stock market. And I think what's happening is people saying, I don't want to hold cash in the bank because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and I've got to buy something. So whether they buy gold or Bitcoin or stocks, it doesn't really matter. They're just trying to do something with their cash. And the price has to go higher to force someone else to say, oh, I've got a profit, I'll take it. Let's look at NASDAQ. So NASDAQ again an all-time high. And if we go to Europe, Europe's doing very well too. You can see Europe stocks that's the Euro Stoxx 50 at an all-time high. Euro Stoxx 600, all-time high. I won't give you the numbers. FTSE 100, all-time high, 9,482.45. So you can see it just goes higher and higher and higher. Now, the picture's a bit more mixed in some of the European countries. You can see Germany is still an all-time high, as near as makes no difference, but it's a bit more up and down recently. It's sort of wondering if it's stuck there. France is even more mixed. You can see this pattern at the top has carried on for quite some time. We're not far off the all-time high, but this political uncertainty in France is maybe stopping the French stocks from going any higher. And Swiss stocks are suffering in part due to the 39% tariff imposed on Swiss exports to the United States. And of course, Switzerland's got a lot of exports to the USA, including precision equipment, chocolate, wine maybe to some extent, and obviously pharmaceuticals. Those are big exports to the United States. So it does explain why the SMI is to some extent under pressure. The Nikkei, don't know how to pronounce it, or what should I say, Nikkei, all-time high, rocketing higher, up 5%, not today, but yesterday. And the reason for that was the appointment of the new Japanese Prime Minister. Hang Seng Index a bit more over the place, but it's doing this saucer shape where we're coming up from the top, from the bottom in 2024, rising higher and higher, but we've still got some way before we make the all-time high, which looks like the all-time high was back in 2017, before the COVID crisis, 2018 maybe, so 2017 roughly. So that was before the COVID crisis. So then the all-time high was around 33,000, and now we're at nearly at 27,000, 26,957 on the Hang Seng Index. As far as volatility is concerned in the stock market, it's at a very low level. That's the chart of the VIX index, which measures the volatility, or rather the premiums on options. So when it's low, it implies that there's a lot of complacency. People don't expect a market crash. They don't expect stocks to fall. So that complacency sort of is odd, given that the political crisis going on in the USA, and it doesn't seem to gel very well with a rising gold price, because if there's a lot of complacency, you wouldn't expect the gold price to be rising. So maybe there's more going on than we can see beneath the surface. But anyway, the VIX index is low, expecting stocks to go higher. One stock which stands out today, and it's the only one which I really saw, was Advanced Micro Devices, AMD. Their stock has soared 23% just here, you see. And the reason is, and this is surprising, NVIDIA has agreed to buy billions of dollars of NVIDIA's chips. Now, I don't...
What's NVIDIA?
NVIDIA, they make the chips which make high-speed processing. So when you use artificial intelligence, you're sending your message to probably a NVIDIA chip. I don't know if that's right, what we call it. Maybe it's a board. But you send your chip, and it's got all the data and all the information on the planet to come back with an intelligent answer. What it does, it looks at all the words on the planet and how people have put them together in the past, and it tries to string them together in the right order to give you an answer. It's called a large language model, LLM, and so NVIDIA makes the chips, which obviously other companies can make chips too, which give you artificial intelligence, but they make allegedly the best and the fastest ones and the most powerful ones, so everybody wants to own NVIDIA chips. But what's surprising here is Advanced Micro Devices has secured a multi-billion-dollar deal with OpenAI. Oh, it's not NVIDIA, it's It's actually, it's not NVIDIA. I thought they're supplying chips to NVIDIA. They're supplying chips to OpenAI. That's correct that. So Advanced Micro Devices have secured a multi-billion-dollar with OpenAI to supply artificial intelligence chips to OpenAI. So OpenAI are not just going to be using NVIDIA chips, they're going to use chips from AMD as well. And of course, any company which has got anything to do with artificial intelligence, we see their stock price soar. And I'll just bring up the move here on the last 5 days of AMD. There we are. So you can see that surge yesterday. There it goes, woof, up. And we're now, the greyed out area here is today's movement. So yesterday we saw it surge 23.7% to $203, and it looks like, based on the early trading, pre-market trading, it looks like it'll open a bit higher at $206, $207 today. So that was an amazing move by AMD yesterday. Bitcoin is heading up. You know anything about Bitcoin? Not really. Well, let's just say it's going up. It's
120,000.
Sorry?
It's 120,000.
Yeah, it's 124,000 now.
I thought it was about 90,000.
Oh, that would have been a few weeks ago. It's if you look at this chart, the red line shows you where we were a year ago. We were at 61,000, something like that. We're now at 124,000, so it's gone up 100%, a bit more than 100% in 1 year. Not sure if it's enough to keep the Bitcoiners happy, but there you go. It's on a rise. I guess there's people in war zones all over the planet who think that it's something that they want to hold. They don't really care about the price. They just want to be sure that they can go somewhere else and have their wealth carried with them. That could be what's going on with Bitcoin. Ethereum doesn't look like it's doing as much, but it's not doing too badly. Gone from every year from 2,400 to 4,700. So it's not quite as good as Bitcoin, but it's nearly 100% higher as well. So that's doing well. I just want to show you the German government bonds compared with the French government bonds. The upper chart here is the French government bonds, and the lower chart is the German government bonds. So we can see, this is the yield. So we can see the yield on French government bonds is rising, and the yield on German government bonds, while it's up and down, it's basically broadly the same as a year ago. So we've had a relative rise in French government bonds because they're deemed to be riskier now due to the political crisis than the German government bonds. On the oil front, oil continues its downwards trajectory. Either we've got too much oil coming to the world, or we've got a recession coming and people are not using oil as much. Perhaps their transportation's going down. Maybe there's less shipping going on, perhaps because of the tariffs. I can't say exactly what it is, but since the couple of years, the oil price has been declining. The dollar is also declining. There's the US dollar index, the DXY. It's at 98.26 at the moment, heading lower. I think that's because of lower US interest rates and political uncertainty. Obviously, a lower dollar does tend to push the gold price higher, but we've only got a dollar which is perhaps, let's call it 10% lower, whereas we've got a gold price which is, probably like 40% higher this year. Let's do a 1 year chart, year to date. Let's do year to date. So gold started the year at 2,600, 2,700, that area, and it's now 3,900. So that's up over $1,000 on. Yeah, so it's like 40%. Gold is 40 something percent higher. But the dollar is only down 11%. So what does that mean? It probably means that if gold is the real currency, the dollar's down 40%, but every other currency is down a bit more, is down a bit less than that. So we've got global decline in currencies. Let's look at the Swiss franc, because that's an important one. As has been the case for decades, we see the Swiss franc continuing to climb. I'll just bring up the year-to-date chart to see how it's doing on a year-to-date. Started the year against the dollar at 1.10. That means 1 Swiss franc buys you $1.10, and now it buys you $1.26, 1.26. So it's gone from 1.10 to 1.26. Well, that's an increase of about 14%. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening today. Subscribe if you can, and I'll be happy to try and answer some of the comments during the day. I won't get to them all, but if there's some very interesting comments, I'll do my best to respond to them. So it's been great to see you all here on this channel. Thank you very much, and we'll speak soon.
Goodbye.
And that's goodbye from my financial expert over there.